30 years of real estate, 33 years. What do you know? After 33 years, we're going to talk about it today. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning, Mr. Novak.
Hi, Josh. How are you? Happy post Melbourne Cup day.
Yes, bright and early, straight back in. Nothing
Josh,
better.
Josh the extraordinaire, the numbers man, the punter. You win? Did you win?
No, I didn't. I didn't get the. I only put the first four on for the Melbourne Cup for the day, and then I didn't have that second that had everyone else. But that's the Melbourne Cup for you, isn't it? Anything can happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought I'd take the chance, help unpack what 33 years in real estate looks like, not only for myself as someone coming into the industry, but obviously for our viewers. Obviously, having boots on the ground and being in amongst it, coming as a salesperson all the way to owning an agency, it would be great to unpack your brain this morning, Mark.
Eat your heart out.
Start out the past. Let's start with the past. What has probably been your biggest change, like the changes you've seen in the marketplace, whether it be like marketingrealestate.com, like what was that version back then? Was it, major DL, the good old signboard? How was marketing in the past when you were first starting as opposed to the current day?
When I started in real estate, we took photos. We took the canister to the lab,
Wow.
which was in Chatswood,
Wow.
and we produced the photos in Chatswood, and then we said to the guys, like, awesome, you're the best, thank you. We'd bring the photos back to the office, then we would choose one photo and go back to the lab in Chatswood and say, could we have 50 of those photos, please? And we stuck those photos to the brochure, to the A4 letterhead, which we printed
Wow.
on. And that was our color brochure. No shit.
Isn't It's crazy, isn't it? You almost think like you're in a different timeline when you take it back to the simplicities of how it was, and where it is now, where you've got virtual furniture, walkthrough videos.
Mate, I could print a brochure from my car. I could take a photo and print a brochure from my car within 10 minutes.
It's insane. And then probably something that is even more interesting is what do you see the future? What do you see the future as? Is it still with these online platforms? Is it more social media based? Is there a whole type of...
I think, yeah, and look, and I'll answer that. I digressed a little bit on that question. I think the biggest fundamental change that I've seen is media, and the online, moving everything online. Searchability for people. That's the biggest thing I've seen in 33 years. Your next question there. Can you ask that again?
What do you see the future? So obviously that's a big change going from the old A4 paper and the printed out one photo. What sort of big changes, like we've seen the online portals? What do you see for the future, the next 10 to 20 years in real estate? What do you see the biggest changes?
I think searchability. I just think the amount of data that's available to people, from when I started in the industry to today, we're talking. It wouldn't even be millions; it would be billions and billions of data points available for one person. And I think that over the next 20 or 30 years, there's going to be so many more data points. And I know in data they call it data streams. It's just streams and streams of information, and the more talented you are at actually identifying what's inside the data stream, people monetize that and make money from that. And I think AI over the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, as there's these streams of data coming through, like just what you're plugging into your phone, that's being recorded for you, to make your life easier, and then that's all centralizing back to servers and data rooms, and there's so much information on a person. So I think for real estate, where it's already at that stage where you know people know people your phone knows before you what your off patterns of other people and data and you, when you're going to be buying and selling next, and where you're going to be buying and selling next, due to your preferences and your patterns. So I think in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years, it's just going to be so much easier to locate what you're after. It's literally going to fall under your fingertips and into and in front of you, and be served up for you, without the effort that you've had to go through over the last 10 or 20 or 30 years. That's what I've seen change, and that's what I'll see change more. If that makes sense. What is it?
Yeah.
What am I saying? I'm saying that that to fulfill that emotion of buying, selling, or renting a property, it's going to be brought forward and made much easier and much more accurate for a consumer.
Yeah, got you. So then that was probably leads me to my next question. Would you say that with all these technological changes, one, your consumers more educated and making better decisions, and number two, on the flip side, for you as a real estate agent, do you find that this, obviously improves the way that your processes and things? It's only helped you in your career with these changes.
I missed the question. Sorry.
So with all the technological changes we've seen, whether going to online media, have you witnessed you say your buyer that you were in front of when you're a young sales agent to now? What sort of changes have you seen in a buyer? Are they more educated? Do they come armed
That's
with more
great
information?
question. That's a great question. Do you know it's? I honestly think it's the same. I think the level of education that the buyer has, because I know there's more data in there. There's more people that can pick up that data, but I think that I know the hunger for that data is not more or less. It's the super nerd picks up on the data, and the non super nerd still does not pick up on the data. Do you know what I mean? So it hasn't made people hungrier to be more educated. Everyone's got their own faculties, what they enjoy, and it's a different part of their brain that they're using. So I think it's easier for those people that had that information to grab information. But are they probably better for it? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. You could probably buy out of the area easier, which is interesting. Because I would have had to physically take myself to Bathurst to buy a property in Bathurst, but you don't feel like an idiot buying in Bathurst now without even going to Bathurst, which is wild. You can spend
Yeah,
$500,000 to do that.
that is very true. You see a lot of those interstate purchases happening all the time now, where probably seemed a bit foreign back then, thinking, I'm going to go, I'm buying something off a couple of photos, and back then, like you said, would have been an A4 piece of paper. So yeah, that's probably definitely a big change, and sort of a normalization you'd say you'd seen in the industry as time's gone on.
Yeah.
What else? Anything like you doing your day to day, and you think of something back how it was? Is there anything that you think that you'd like to share that probably I'm not thinking of asking, where you think, wow, things used to be so different beforehand?
Look, something, yeah, and if I could answer the opposite to that as well, what's the same? I like yesterday. I spent the day with probably 100 real estate agents. Uh, um, and a lot of people, a lot of conversations, and something that I just said over and over and over to people, which I think is fundamentally the same over the last 33 years, is that apologetically, apologetically, I don't know, was saying to people, you're just not gonna make a life without investing in property. And I just think, food and shelter is just absolutely fundamental. And I kept doing these 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left, and 10 steps to the left, explaining to people. And there's so many people, because I guess you're talking to sort of younger generations now, um, which I wasn't doing in my 20s. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's like, "Hey, Mark, what do you reckon? What do you reckon?" And I kept saying, like, how much are you going to save over the next year? And then people would say 10,000 I'll save, or 20,000 I'll save per year. And I'm like, okay, so in 10 years, that's 100,000, or, scale it up, 120,000, whatever it may be. They're like, yep. And I'm like, okay, now if you continue to do that and you buy a unit in DY for 630,000, which you can now, and I said, and you continue to save your 10 grand, but I said, that unit's going to go up 10% a year. It's done that for 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. It's always done that. And I've said, that's $60,000, so, like, if you continue to do your 10 and it's 10 grand a year, and you're 100 grand up in 10 years, and you do your 60,000, which is actually indexed, but I won't do that. And let's say 60,000 for 10 years is 600,000. I said, you've got a duty to yourself and to your family, and to to put a roof over your head. You know what I mean? And that money will do that. So I know I'm very dollar based, but it doesn't. It translates back to um, education, back to health, back to security, back to, like, the right things that you want. So I think fundamentally, you know, the market is still going to continue what it's done the last 33 years, and just you just got to get in there, and that conversation that I've been having with people hasn't changed. And I
Yeah.
feel really, it's probably my number one most passionate thing in property, that drives me, to help people understand that.
Yeah. Wow. And that's a pretty big to stick with your whole career. That just shows your passion for it, and real estate itself. And like you said, that 10,000 a year, 10 years is a hell of a big difference between 100 grand and 600. So
Yeah, you can do both.
it's a gold
And,
there.
yeah, and you can still do the things that make you tick. Like, I think often people feel like, I can't, take that holiday if I do the property, or I can't do this, I'm hamstrung. And it's like, nah, it's the opposite. It actually makes life easier as you get older.
Yeah.
You're not hamstrung, sort of thing. So, and I think the things that are going to wildly change in the next 33 years, to answer your question, I think the way people search property is going to radically change. I think the portals are probably dead. Um, watching the way newspapers um, dwindled suddenly. I think what you'll find is, because it's 3.5 grand to whack your property on realestate.com for a seller these days, on a portal that's wouldn't be that expensive to to put something on a website. But I think that'll dwindle quickly, because I think, with what I mentioned about data streams and searchability and stuff like that, I think ChatGPT and the likes of ChatGPT, finding that information
Mm.
um, will be very, very different. I think they will um, chat. If you're a buyer, you will say, I would like to buy a property in DY. I want it to have a balcony of at least 5 meters squared. I want it to have a garage. I want it to be a 2-bedroom, and I want it to be between 900 and 975. And have up every single active property that's for sale on every agent's website, on every agent's social media, on every agent's wherever the agents have digitally placed that information, ChatGPT would digitally hunt, find, and qualify and serve that information to a buyer. I think we're there. So I think for portals, do you know what I mean? And I think for like, if you look at the death of radio, if you look at the death of the newspaper, it happened over a long period. In the 70s, 60s and 70s, like not real estate newspaper or newspaper. Then if you looked at not the death, but the diminishing, like the curve coming away from its peak. And I think if you look at radio and how that curve came away, and I think if you look at television and how that curve fell away, and then I think they've radically become shorter in their diminishing from their peak. They haven't gone. Newspapers are still around. Radio is still around, podcasting or whatever. But it's come off its peak very quickly. This is a long show.
Yeah. It is. We've done a good amount, but hey, it's quite a bit to pack in with that 33 years with the real estate into the 17 odd minutes. So I think we've done an all right job.
Sorry for talking so much.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, thanks, Mark. Thanks for sharing your insights into your past, the present, and the future. I think it's people that you find that are pioneers in the industry, guys there who you listen to. They generally know what's going on and what's going to happen. So let's look forward to the future of real estate.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thanks, Agent. Have a great day, Ron. See ya.